And the only reason that I hadn't pulled the trigger on at least trying the service earlier was because one of the things that I don't want to deal with, like I want to have the option to I don't want to have to pay for a full-time graphic designer. And at the same time, I want to be able to produce as much content as I need, as quickly as I need it in a sense, that's a difficult balance, right? Where, so No Limit offered what I thought was maybe a solution to that. The issue, of course, there is, and it's one that you allude to, which is, how much hand-holding is going to be necessary to actually get the kind of content that I want from them? Is it going to be a constant back and forth, or are they going to understand, what I'm looking for? Can I write up a little brief of what I want and actually get back what I want, maybe first or second try versus, 5 or 6 revisions later, finally, I've got something that's close to what I'm looking for.
So I would say even beyond that. So here was my big issue is that I'm not a graphic designer. So I can do things that look, again, they're acceptable. They're adequate.
Right. Yeah. Same here. Yeah.
But what I wanted from a graphic designer is somebody, and this is what I get out of having, and I don't have, an employee that does this 40 hours a week. I have contractors because, sometimes I have 10 projects and sometimes I have 2 projects that I need a graphic designer for. But what they bring to the table is somebody that I can say, okay, here's kind of the idea and here's what the copy looks like. And I can do like a Loom video to walk them through that process. Mm-hmm. And then they can use their graphic design,
so I think I know what the difference is between, so like I've dealt with both kind of graphic designers so like, for example, my logo for our meal prep business, I just gave him a concept and I knew what I wanted. I knew kind of the space. I knew who our kind of archetype was, and he just went and he gave me like 5 or 6 different versions of it. One of them was amazing, and it's the one that we're using now. It's one of like 4 or 5 options that he gave me. That was more, I just gave the guy a concept and he gave me 5 or 6 kind of visions of what he saw that concept to be. With No Limit, I think the difference is that what I have found over, and I've been using them for a long time. I've been using them for probably 3 years now. And their business has changed a lot. Like they used to have just an Amazon sellers package. And back then, to be honest, the quality wasn't as good, but I've been with them long enough now. And like Jon was alluding to, you can choose your designers. And I made a list of every one of the designers that made something that I liked. And I have now like a top 3 or 4 list of all the ones that have always produced very, very well for me. Now, the difference is, and I think this is where Jon might have a different solution with his freelancers, is that I have to give them examples. So if I show them, like, for example, my competitors' listings, and I know conceptually what I want, and I just show them examples of it, and I say, make this change or make this branding difference. And most of the time, it's really just branding. I mean, I provide my photos, but I model my photos off of what I like of what my competitors have done. So like, it's easy for me to take an example of that to show them, and then they come back and I can show you like my current listing that I'm working on right now, my glass meal prep container. I did exactly that. Most of the competitors have, the cadence of their images are the same. What they're showing in the images for the most part are the same. So I was able to show him kind of what I wanted, 3 different examples. And then I added my little bit of a flair, but it was more instructional. This is what I want. This is an example of it. And he gave it back to me exactly how I asked for it. Right. It's almost like I kind of like equate it to working with a Filipino VA, where you have to like a 3rd grade level map out what it is exactly that you want to do. So I think that's a big difference between the two.
And so there's 2 things that I think that you point out that are good for people to know is that like you can get good work out of them. And I want to make sure that's clear, but you do have to have a very thorough project brief that tells them, step by step what you want them to do. Now, so there's 2 things, and I'm curious, Matt, how this works for you. So there's 2 things. One, creating that project brief, I would probably spend 2 hours on a project brief in order to get back a high quality product.
Hmm.
Whereas, at least again, for me, once I've done that a couple of times with the people that I work with on a regular basis, I can spend 15 minutes on a project brief. I can kind of give them 1 or 2 examples in a quick, like 1 or 2 minute Loom video. And I'm going to get back not only something that is as good as what I expect, but usually much better, and taken in a direction where they're using their creative talents to create something that's better than what I could have given them point by point instructions for.
Right.
The other thing that I'm curious for you, Matt, that I honestly didn't like about, I shouldn't say didn't like, but didn't fit well for me for No Limit Creatives is, again, sometimes I have 2 projects, sometimes I have 10 projects that I need done. And with No Limits, like the package or how they do their billing, it's like, okay, you get, X number of projects at a time. And usually those projects, take anywhere from a couple of days up to a week. And so for me, it was really hard where either I was paying for capacity that I wasn't using, or I didn't have enough capacity. So I was curious how that works for you.
I think the biggest difference oops, am I on mute, or can you hear me?
No, you're good.
So I think the biggest difference for me, especially right now, since I've been on the package that we're on right now, and the current way. So before I was just doing one-off projects for a long time with them. I wasn't on the unlimited plan. I moved to the unlimited plan right before, John, you and I started sharing that account, is when I moved over to the unlimited plan. I was a little bit worried about being able to use it to its capacity, which is the reason why I was offering, sharing it. And currently for me, it's been, I would say for the last year, it's really just been listing images. So like listing images, I think, are a lot different than like what a lot of the things that you're doing it for, which is like Facebook ad creatives or like landing stuff that you're using on your landing page. Like listing images follow a pretty basic set of rules, at least for me, especially the ones that so it's like, and the graphic designers that I have marked as my favorites, I think that's what they're good at. I don't know how they would perform if I asked them to make like a Facebook ad graphic or something like that. You know what I mean? So I think that there are designers within No Limit Creatives that specialize in Amazon listings, or and they're different. It's a little bit different. At least I don't know that I would have the same images on my listing as I would on maybe a Facebook ad for the same product.
Oh yeah, they're very different.
Yeah.
And that is a good point. And I will say that most of the graphic designers that I have on, well, I say most, there's 2 or 3 that I work with on a regular basis, and 2 of them are pretty flexible. Like they understand the difference between what the job of an Amazon listing is versus a Facebook ad. The other thing that I will throw just into this conversation, because I think it's a tool that I found that was incredibly helpful no matter what you're using, is called Hightail. And the advantage of that is that you can actually annotate on there. Like you can circle things, you can highlight things, and you can put notes to show exactly like, hey, I want to change this color from red to blue, or I want to change this text copy from best whatever ever to the most awesomest